Ah, okay, it's finally set up. I hope you can see my screen and hear me. I just need some feedback.
Yep, we can.
Yep,
Okay,
loud and clear.
okay, nice to know that. So, how do I begin? So, uh, so I work in Spiralogics, as Nisa already mentioned. Um, sorry, I'm a little nervous because it's too formal right now.
It's
So,
fine. It's fine.
okay. Um, so I think few of you know me. I know a few of you there. I initially started working with Safal. I think I saw Safal here, and of course Arundai, Dipendai, Parvati Didi, everyone were there when I started working. And nice to see you all. Um, I hope I can catch up with everyone in more informal setting. Okay, so to the topic. So my topic today is documenting your technical work. So when I started working in Spiralogics, um, during that is, I never thought I would be talking about writing and why writing is important. My focus was just learning new software tools, new software, new language. But once I started the journey of PhD and senior engineer at Intel, that led me to believe that writing is the most important part. Um, I may contradict with some of your thoughts, but it is even more important than programming that I do. So first, some disclaimers about this topic. So this is not the original work. What you see here in the presentation, this information that you can find it everywhere in the internet, in books. So this is just a collection of resources read and saved, and few uh, those were in memory when I made this presentation. And again, this writing is very subjective, and it's very difficult to convince everyone that this is the way. So there is no one formula for writing, and good writing for one can be bad writing for another. So whatever you take in from this presentation, take it with a grain of salt, filter it through your own filtering process, and use it. So another next thing is the topic I chose is really very, very, very broad. So this presentation will hardly teach you anything. It is just like an inspiration. So I will try to throw some ideas that might improve your writing, but uh, attend this presentation with the thought that this is just an inspiration, and if you really want to improve your writing, you have to practice and use some other resources too. Okay, so first the table of contents. So this is what I'll be talking about today. Introduction, some writing. I already gave some background. I will present the theory, the writing process. Just came fresh from academics, so theory should always be there. And I'll present about some phases of writing technical document or documenting your technical work, which includes planning, um, writing, and editing. So I'll talk about some tools that I used during my PhD or that I use right now and that I find that I enjoy using for writing. And I'll also briefly present a slide um, that covers what I did not cover. And finally, Q&A and conclusion and all those mandatory slides at the end. Um, so first, the introduction. So even though this is formal, I think everyone can react, right, in the teams. So how many of you have read Sapiens book by Yuval Noah Harari? Anyone? Oh, right. I see one thumbs up. Asutos. I see some more. I don't see the name on my screen, but yeah. So it's a great book. So it's one of the most inspiring and influential book for me, at least. So so I took this data from that book. So writing was invented around 3,500 to 3,000 BC in southern Mesopotamia. So there was one really some genius guy, Sumerian guy, who invented a system for storing and processing information outside the human brain. So just imagine. So everything was inside the human brain until then. And then someone came up with the system to store information and process information outside the human brain. So that is what the writing is about. And it was first discovered to store and process information about food stocks, grains. So writing was invented as a technical writing. So according to the book, the language was invented for gossiping, but writing was for technical writing. So the gossips in writing came much later. So next thing about something about technical writing. So what we focus in technical writing and documentation is facts and truths. So there is no fabrication, no imagination. So it's kind of boring, but that is what we do. And every technical writing has to have one objective. So if your document has multiple objectives, that's not good. Split up the document. And every technical writing has a targeted audience. Either it's for another developer or some manager or some executive person. There is always a target audience. And language should be simple. Technical writing is never complicated. Okay, so just put that in mind. Never make your technical writing complicated. And what you find in technical writing is non-generic. You don't find that somewhere else. If you find it in somewhere else, that your writing effort has no value. So usually it's something that you do, something that is your own, and then the next step is you write about what you have. It can be the new process or new software, new piece of code, anything. So another thing about technical writing is it is never read for fun, and reader is seeking information. They are not seeking enjoyment from your technical writing, and they are not expecting it to be mysterious, and they know what to expect and what to find in the technical writing. So you have to keep these things in mind when writing your report. So next thing is, this is the theory, the writing process. So writing process has plan. So in planning process, you think about your audience and your purpose. And next thing is a writing process. So you at first, this is the formal way. You make the sentence outline, and then you prepare the draft. And then comes the most difficult part. And then you revise the document, revise the content, revise the organization, and then edit the document for coherence, for clarity, and for readability. So I'll explain each of these terms later, one by one. And finally is proofread. It's good that some other person proofreads your document. So the audience. So before you write something, you have to fix your audience. So you have to plan who your audience is going to be, and what will the audience, how will the audience use the document. So audience purpose can be like, if you are a software developer, it can be just to know how the software is implemented. If you are executive, it can be to extract data and make a decision. And if you are a scientific person, it can be to add more work based on that document itself. So based on the audience, you have to prepare a document. And next difficult thing is you have to determine the level of knowledge of your audience on the subject matter that you are writing. So based on the knowledge, if your audience is not knowledgeable on the subject, you have to start from the very beginning. You have to define terms, you have to give example, you have to give analogies, you have to draw lots of pictures. But if your audience is an expert, then you might not need all these things, like in the last presentation, it was CQRS, and if audience was me, then CQRS, even the definition, what is C, what is Q, what is R, what is S, everything will need to be defined. But if it is someone else already working in CQRS in Spiralogics, then you can directly jump into how to set up CQRS, how to do it in .NET, and those kind of things. So the first important thing is your think about your audience. And the next thing is what formally is called purpose statement. So every document, every technical document needs to have a purpose statement. So it needs to have 5 things. So, and purpose document will be your first sentence in the document. So you have to state what is the type of document, and you have to describe what document does. You can use some words like describes, explains, present, notifies, and you have to present what information the audience needs, and you have to indicate your audience and make it clear. And finally, it's also a good idea to indicate what audience can do with the information in the document. So I'll give one example. So I'm writing a paper, okay, a white paper or academic paper. So this type of document is paper, and this document presents. And what does this document present? Architecture and algorithm, and who is the audience of this document? Software developer. And what will audience do? So reading this document, they will add the implementation in any programming language. So you form a sentence like this paper presents something software architecture and algorithm, so developer can refer to add the implementation using the programming language of choice. So this is the purpose statement, and this should always be your first sentence. So even in scientific paper, there is a separate section called abstract. So abstract, in abstract, you usually put this purpose statement as the first sentence. And next tool in writing documents is sentence outlining. So this is what most of us skip, and I used to skip too. So what sentence outlining does is you put point-wise outline of the information that you want to include in the document. So this sentence outlining should focus on the body. So introduction, conclusion, those are all the, I regard them as the byproducts of your body or the main content. So focus on the body and write what you want to include. So these outlines should include what are your findings and what are your opinions. So don't include data in the sentence outlining, because it will get very long and as complicated as your document itself. So just include findings and your opinions sentence by sentence. And at the end, make sure your findings and opinions in the sentence outlining are not repeated. So this is important point. So after you have your sentence outline and you start writing, and it's called writing a draft. So when writing a draft, don't worry about editing, don't worry about your formatting, just write swiftly, because you already have the outline, sentence outline. Just start writing using that outline, describe on that sentence outline itself. If it is your own work, then you can really write the draft without much issues. And it should contain details to support each point in the outline. So the method to write the draft is always start with the body. Again, I already mentioned this is the most important part. And next, go to the conclusion, and finally go to the introduction. So this introduction, so there is a trend that you introduce the topic as a whole, like what does the topic stand, what this stands, but introduction in technical documents should be introduction to the document, not the subject matter itself. So focus on what is in your document. So what is additional in your document? What is novel, new in your document? What is the contribution of the document? And how the documentation is organized. So all those things in introduction. Do not start introducing topics like if you start writing about computers, do not start writing what are computers and what do computer do and all those kind of things. Those things might occupy one or two sentences, but those should not be in the introduction. Those should not be the major part of the introduction. And they can be in a separate part called background or preliminaries or something like that, but not the introduction. Always remember, introduction is the introduction to your document. And while writing draft, you can use shorthands like at least for me, since I'm not a native speaker, I struggle with English and I don't get the words. I just write whatever I remember at that point and put brackets around those words so that I can replace that later. So this is the writing draft part. And next part is the revise part. So this is where all the hard work happens. Um, So revise part, there are, you revise for content and you revise for organization. So when you revise for content, you have to ask these 5 questions. So the first one is